welcome to WrestleWolf. I am Damian Gibson, and this is our WCW Nitro Reconsideration presents Fall Brawl 95. And to help me get through just that intro alone is the mystery, the enigma. It's Matthew.
Hello.
Hey, man. How you going?
I'm very excited.
Yeah. Yes. So am I. I just finished watching this again. So it's the third time in a week and a half that I've watched it. Just to sort of like, I just wanted to have proper notes. There was so much going on that I didn't want to miss anything, And I don't think I've had this many notes. Like, I've done a lot of podcasts about a lot of different wrestling things. I don't think I have. I think I've run out of room on my Google Keep here.
Well, that's
like with the amount of notes that I've got on this pay-per-view.
I mean, that's bodes well.
Yeah, well, hopefully we won't run out of content. There won't be any dead air or anything. So we, just for anyone, I mean, I suppose you probably already know this if you're listening to this podcast, but Matt and I have decided to go through and watch every Nitro because we're both big. Well, we were big WCW fans back in the day, and it just felt like it would be fun. But we kind of both have sort of, I think, underestimated how good the wrestling and promotion was at this time in WCW.
I can confirm that I definitely did. This was not what I was expecting. Shall we get into the actual Fall Brawl?
Yeah. So this aired on September 17th, 1995, and it was coming out of Asheville, North Carolina, which is I'm not sure if you picked this up during the course of the pay-per-view, Matt, but it's Horseman country. We had 6,600 people in attendance, and Fall Brawl was one of their. I mean, WCW didn't really have like a big four or anything like that, but it was definitely one of their bigger pay-per-views that they had each year that incorporated war games, which if you've watched an NXT takeover recently, Vince now owns that as well, and you know the concept. It's essentially a double ring cage scenario.
As they constantly call it, war games, the match beyond.
So this is our first look at Tony Schiovne, or Tony Schiavone, or if you're Chris Jericho, who will go on to be the main voice of Nitro eventually. But at the moment, we've got Eric Bischoff as the main commentator. The first match we had was Flying Brian Pillman. I really don't like that nickname.
Well, I think we're sort of at the end of Flying Brian.
Yeah, it feels like that.
We're definitely hurtling towards Brian Pillman.
Yeah,
anarchist.
Crazy Brian Pillman. Yeah. Versus Johnny B. Bad, who is someone that I hear, if you listen to any of the sort of Conrad Thompson podcasts or anything along those lines, you'll hear this name come up. And he is always, from what I've heard anyway, is always a bit of a punchline. I don't know what your experience is with Johnny B. Bad, but seeing him come out here initially, I was like, oh God, this is like a low rent Macho Man. But this match was I really enjoyed it. Like, it went for a long time. It was like a 20, 25-minute match. It wasn't the greatest wrestling of all, but it told a pretty good story. Pillman slowly sort of turning throughout this, and the crowd seemed to really love Johnny B. Bad as well. So I don't quite get that sort of reputation of his from watching this one match.
You can kind of see why the WWF, picked him up. And, like, I was never a Mark Mero fan, but you can see here that, like, it seemed like he had a lot of charisma and was serviceable in the ring. Like, it probably helps going against Brian Pillman.
Definitely, yeah. But still, like, a strong mid-card talent, like, it didn't... I feel like he must have pissed off that, Memphis Mafia in some way, because he just doesn't get he just gets spoken about like a joke.
Mm.
Mark Marrow, of course, was married to Sable, who is now Brock Lesnar's wife. And supposedly the story goes that when Mark Marrow found out that Sable had cheated on him with Brock Lesnar, cheated on him, he was like, I want to know who it is. Tell me who it is. I'll kill him. And then someone told him it was Brock Lesnar, and he said he found the power of forgiveness in about 3 seconds. I really like that story. It's one of my favorite wrestling stories. So this there isn't really much to say. I don't know if you've got much to add about this match. No. It was just a good, solid opening match, and
like Brian Pillman's doing a lot of great character work. Sort of, he's not flying very much at all at this point. No. He's actively not, in fact, and the audience hates it and sort of is hating him because of it. And it's I think that's basically all I had to say about this one.
Yeah, fair enough. Next up, we had a promo from Ric Flair for the upcoming Arn versus Rick grudge match, brother versus brother scenario. He cuts, both of these guys cut promos that are almost kind of identical, but in completely different characters, obviously, because they're very different kind of guys. But essentially it's, Rick's like, we're brothers, we grew up together, we didn't have brothers and sisters because I was adopted, you came from a broken home, so like, it was just really laying on thick the family storyline about these two brothers having to go head to head later on.
Yeah, Ric Flair remains good at promos.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I feel like the first sort of 45-50 minutes of this pay-per-view, we're just sort of treading water until we get to the really ridiculous, juicy stuff. The next match we had Cobra, or as we would say in Australia, Cobra, versus Sergeant Craig Pittman. I've never heard of these guys prior to watching this pay-per-view. I don't think we'll hear of either of them again.
No.
Were they a tag team that split or something? That seemed to be the vibe I was getting, but
I just like how into the first of all, Craig Pittman came down was propelled down from the ceiling and snuck up on Cobra, which I was like, that's so expensive for like what was a 3.5 minute squash match, like just jobber match past the time. And it's like WCW is so WCW in spending a bunch of money on an entrance for someone that doesn't matter and earn no money for them.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is because there was a big giant cage suspended from the roof as well, that I was paying attention to the crowd as he was coming down, because the TV cameras were paying attention to him because they knew he was coming down from the roof, right? But it wasn't really until he got to about 2 meters off the ground that the audience realized that someone had just rappelled down from the roof. You know what I mean? So not only had they spent all this money on it, but it just didn't get a pop because no one saw it until by the time he'd hit the ground, people were like, did he just rappel down from the roof? Like, just sorry, man, you go.
No, you go.
Oh, it's just because I agree with you that it's just beautiful WCW wastage of like, yeah, let's do all of this at the same time.
And it was just like two blokes in military garb sorting out a problem, as all military problems are resolved in the wrestling ring.
In the ring, yeah. How we sort our problems here at the American Marines, in the ring.
And then like the fact that they're like, has he sent someone else from his platoon, like the commentators? And you're like, this is buying into the fact that these two people have just rocked up and they're active servicemen and have commands, and
It had a touch of the Sergeant Slaughter G.I. Joes about it. Like, are these guys G.I. Joe characters, or are they wrestlers, or like what is going on? Is there a whole other like WCW Soldier Man universe that we're not aware of? Like, if you hadn't been watching the TV prior to this, which we haven't, we've only watched 2 episodes of Nitro, there's no backstory. And the commentator, like Brain and Tony, don't give us anything.
No.
You know, like there's no backstory. They're too busy talking about Dungeon of Doom and the Hulkamaniacs, as they are pretty much throughout the whole pay-per-view. So I'm kind of intrigued about who's Cobra and like who are these guys? You know what I mean? Like, what is their story? And I know that I'll probably never see them ever again, and it'll haunt me. Dude, I can't wait any longer. I need to talk about the next segment, which is Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful, who has lost a match to. We do get told that he's lost a match to Macho Man Randy Savage. Do you know what show it was on? Because it wasn't on Nitro, so it must have been
Saturday
a Saturday
night.
night.
Yeah,
Saturday Night show, yeah, which is called Saturday Night. And he has lost all confidence and his promo. So Gary Spivey comes in to he had a vision that Paul Orndorff had lost his wonderfulness and wanted to speak to him about it. And I knew it was Gary Spivey. You know how I knew, Matt? Because Paul Orndorff says his name about 117 times when he walks into the walks into the dressing room, just to really nail it down that we've got a celebrity.
But he doesn't just say his name. He says, Gary Spivey of the Psychic Companion Network?
Yeah, well, that's the second time. He really doubled down. He's Gary Spivey. Gary Spivey of the Psychic TV Network, 7:30s on Sunday evenings, right here on TNT. This is amazing. This promo, dude, goes for 4 minutes and 10 seconds.
And not a minute wasted, not a second wasted.
It's phenomenal. So if you haven't watched the pay-per-view, Gary Spivey is he's a clairvoyant, I suppose, a TV psychic. Like I'm getting a vision. Your mum's name was Susan. It was Michelle. It was Michelle. That kind of thing. And he is wearing. How would you describe his hair?
It's an outrageous sort of foam wig. I know him because he was in the 7-Eleven ads for Skittles flavoured Slurpees in Australia, which seems like such an enormous waste because no one in Australia knows who Gary Spivey is, and 7-Eleven Australia have paid a bunch of money to bring him out. Much like WCW did. And he, I guess it's just like if you've done anything, at some point you will get to advertise a product.
Yeah, well, his hair, I could not. For the first 2 minutes, I was just looking at this sort of angelic steel wool that he had on his head.
That's a nice way to put it.
And it is a bit nice, isn't it? But he seems like a nice guy. Like he's sort of saying very new age things of like, you will find yourself again. There's a good person in you, Paul. I know there is. You are wonderful. And I'm kind of like, this guy's all right. Like I don't.
I mean, look,
I don't mind him.
Look,
I don't mind him.
He made a fortune off the exploiting the grief and suffering of other people, but he does seem positive. So
in this promo, he seems like a decent guy. Like he's just popped in to say hi. He had a vision that Paul wasn't doing very well. He just wanted to make sure that he got his wonderfulness back, which he does in a very short turnaround. Paul goes from the first sort of 40 seconds of this promo is Paul literally smashing up his dressing room and, having a nervous breakdown.
Being more interesting than he is going to be in the time he has left in his career.
Yeah. Then, Mr. Spivey shows up and does an amazing job in about 2 minutes of restoring his confidence. So much so that the last 40 seconds of the promo, Mr. Wonderful literally spends staring at himself in the mirror, kissing himself. He starts sort of like like Addams Family style, how Gomez used to do to Morticia. He starts at his wrist, moves up to his bicep, and then gives himself a big old smooch in the mirror. And that's the end of the promo.
Thank goodness for that.
No, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. I can't.
All I'm saying is, if they
don't know
had have
what's
kept
going-
that, if they had have kept that camera in there, like I'm not sure it was ending on the kissing in the mirror. I think for the sanctity of the program, it needed to go to move on.
I think you're 100% correct. He was looking at himself like he had taken all the MDMA in the world.
And given it's WCW, he just might have.
Oh yeah, man. We'll get to a promo later on in this where I think there was a whole bunch of excitement powder that had been taken beforehand. Next up, we had I haven't written down their full name. Buck and Slater is basically what I've written down. I don't think we need to really worry about these characters because we're not going to have to deal with them much.
I have a lot to say about this. This is Bunkhouse Buck and Dirty Dick Slater.
There we go. Thanks, man. I knew you'd have my back. Versus Harlem Heat. And I just want to point out quickly before you get into what you've got there, Bobby the Brain Heenan kept calling Harlem Heat, which is Booker T and Stevie Ray, two legends of wrestling. They're probably not at this stage, but still, Harlem Heats. So he did not. I don't think he called either of them, Booker or Stevie, by their name at any point. It was just like, oh, there's a good attempted pin there by a Harlem Heat.
That's not good.
No.
To be fair, to Bobby, he was phoning it in pretty hard.
Yeah, I would if he wasn't so lackadaisical about everything, then I would accuse him of racism. But I don't think that's what this is. I think this is him just not giving a shit.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much right. So this match doesn't have a lot. It does have a lot of side stories and irrelevant things going on, but this is 1995, and Bunkhouse Buck and Dirty Dick Slater won the Wrestling Observer's Award for the worst tag team of the year that year.
Good. They absolutely should. And I've only seen them in one match. I agree. That's Dave, right? That's Uncle Dave.
That's Dave,
yeah. He's right. When he's right, he's goddamn right. Also, I just wanted to point out that Buck was wearing a belt and braces. So that's just something that really annoyed me throughout the whole of this match. I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would you have a belt and braces? That's really annoying.
It's just extra support. I fell into like a real Wikipedia hole with Bunkhouse Buck. So his real name is Jimmy Golden, which is significantly better as a wrestling name than Bunkhouse Buck.
100%.
No doubt. He once played Jack Swagger Senior's Jack Swagger Senior in an episode of SmackDown. And in 2011, when Bunkhouse Buck was 61 years old, he won the Tennessee Mountain Wrestling Heavyweight Championship.
God, I really find that depressing when guys are still wrestling indies in their 60s and 70s, man. I just...
Well, I always thought, I just couldn't believe that they would ruin the integrity of Tennessee Mountain Wrestling.
Yeah, that was a dark day. That was a dark day for Tennessee Mountain Wrestling.
It's the David Arquette moment of...
I like David Arquette. But of course I do. He's, it's what's the most ridiculous thing in wrestling? David Arquette. Does Damian like it? Yes, he does.
We'll be talking about that in about 5 years, listeners. Yeah. So that's a bit of forward sizzle.
Oh, I thought you meant David Arquette now. No, I don't like WCW. Yeah, anyway, we'll get to that in about 5 to 6 years. There's also a side story going on here between Sensational Sherrie and Colonel Parker, where Sensational Sherrie had hit her head in an earlier episode of Saturday Night, and when she'd come to, she was in love with Colonel Parker. And so that is essentially what this whole match centers around, to the point where when they sort of do this weird, again, almost Addams Family, like Gomez and Morticia's type sort of like dancing, wooing each other from across the other ring. And then they properly, there's only one way to describe this. They pash.
They really go for it.
It's like, that's a very Australian way of describing this, but they pash hard, Matt. I haven't seen pashing that hard since high school.
It is worth mentioning, as you sort of did, this is like the main event has the 2 rings, but the 2 rings are just set up the whole time.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of, there's just an empty wrestling ring.
Yeah, and it doesn't get used until the main event at all, really.
No. It's just sort of like, it's just sort of there, but like always within shot. Like, it's an exceptionally strange visual.
Yeah, visual. If you didn't know what was going on, you just, why are there 2 rings here? Oh, this is confusing. Gary Spivey's gone. I'm turning this off. So they start making out, and then while the camera is on them pashing hard, the Harlem Heat win the tag team titles. And that's just secondary to this Colonel Parker and Sensational Sherrie storyline.
Well, none of those 4 people are ever going to, make it out of, the sort of 3rd match on a stacked card tag team. So why bother, having footage of Booker T winning the tag team titles for the first time?
Yeah, it's not like he'll be an important part of WCW's future going forward. So, yeah. Then after this, there's a lot of this going on in this pay-per-view, like doubling down and having like 2 promos when there should have been 1, or in the main event's case, we have 4 before we even get to the match. But we'll get to that in a second. So then Mean Gene calls Colonel Parker over, and then they basically just call him a disgusting pig man for making out with Sherrie. Mean Gene's like, look at you, you're disgusting. You've got lipstick all over your face, and you're a mess of a man. And then Colonel Parker basically professes his love for Sherrie, and then that's it.
I like that's where WCW draw the line. Like, they've just had sort of, what is wink, wink, nod, nod, a racist colonel and his country hicks wrestle 2 black men from Harlem. And they're like, you shouldn't have kissed that woman who wanted to kiss you, idiot.
Yeah, but he doesn't care. He's in love, man. His heart is soaring like an eagle.
And I'm sure it's going to work out well.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's wrestling. What could go wrong? Wrestling, kayfabe relationships always work out well.
Agreed.
Yeah. Next up, we have another another promo for.
Well, I think we've skipped. I think we missed DDP versus Renegade.
Oh shit, we did. And do you have some things that you want to say about this match?
Not really, other than DDP has literally every gimmick. He's got a cigar, sunglasses, the diamond doll, a pink diamond on his chest, and a bodyguard called Max Muscle. Despite the fact that he's about like 7 foot and jacked, DDP needs a bodyguard for some reason.
Yeah, it's very busy. And the Diamond Doll is Kimberly, who is his wife, who will go on to be the captain of the Nitro Girls, I suppose, is probably the way you would describe it. Yeah, so I just I completely forgot to write notes down for that episode.
I think that's about all we need to say. The Renegade, not very good in the ring.
No, it's laughable how much the Renegade is the Ultimate Warrior.
It's like my only note for him was it's remarkable that they got away with this character.
Yeah, we talked earlier in the week, it would be like a week or so ago now, about Sasha and Bailey doing some gimmick infringement. This is proper gimmick infringement. Like,
yeah, this is not good.
It's it is so the Ultimate Warrior. It's not funny and so bad. next up, we're up to the Arn Anderson versus Ric Flair match. Arn cuts a promo beforehand, and ultimately, I just want to point this out because one, Arn looks great. I really like Arn Anderson. The older I get, the more I like Arn.
He's a spectacular promo as well.
And he's wearing this sick silk bomber jacket. Like that's mainly what I wanted to bring up, and I'm going to spend most of my time trying to find one. Yeah, he looks like Ryan Gosling from Drive. So
he does. That's a great reference. I think this might be the first televised pro wrestling appearance of Charlotte Flair. She just pops up with Rick's got all his children there.
Oh yeah.
And there's just there's a little blonde girl who I'm assuming is Charlotte.
That would be Charlotte. Yeah, David Flair's there, and I can't remember the other Flair's name.
Reid.
That's it. Yeah. So this is all about family, and and then we have it's the Arn Anderson Ric Flair match. This match goes for quite a while. I mean, I think it's close to half an hour the match goes for.
They did an exceptional thing in sort of just as it was getting started. They cut to all the wrestlers coming out, like sort of like going to take seats.
That was really cool.
Which made it seem so important because it's like the guys want to see this match. Like this is the match for the wrestlers.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It feels like this match probably should have been the headliner, with the importance of, the history of these guys and the importance of them to WCW. But we'll see more and more that means nout to the people who are running this company, and that it's all about them, baby. But yeah, I thought that kind of evened it out a little bit to have pretty much the locker room and all the managers and everyone coming out to watch this match. It's like, oh no, it's a double headliner. It's essentially how they managed to paint that. That's really good booking. And I don't think I've seen too much of that. I mean, that's a really basic thing that you could do.
It would have worked really well for like a Gargano Ciampa blow off where it's just a blood feud and it's like the wrestlers are keen to see it. Everyone wants to see how this is gonna actually end.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know if that's been done much. But anyway,
no, I don't think so.
The way that WWE are recycling gimmicks at the moment, it's only a matter of time. So this, what can you say about Arn Anderson and Ric Flair in a match? I mean, Rick's kind of doing heelish type stuff. He's going out. He's going to the outside quite a bit. He's using the ropes with when he's trying to get a pinfall. There's a low blow, but ultimately there's some just really good mat wrestling. Arn's the enforcer, so there's a lot of sort of fists. And the one thing with these guys is that when they do throw punches and stuff, they really do look like they land. I know those sort of old school guys like pride themselves on that. And that's why these matches tell such a good story, I think, because it feels real,
And I think there's not a whole, like, we're not, wrestling move by move analysts, but it's worth sort of saying that in this, this is when Jim Cornette or guys like that, the old school guys, talk about, real wrestling and, crack the shits at the Young Bucks and things like that. This match is what they're talking about. Like, this is real wrestling.
Yeah, it is, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a place on planet Earth for both.
No, absolutely.
It doesn't have to be one or the other. There can be both. So towards the end of the match, Rick gets a figure four lock on. Arn reverses that. They separate, and then Brian Pillman arrives. Sort of distracts Rick. He seems to be sort of saying like, "Stop this." Like stop fighting kind of thing. Like, I don't like it when mummy and daddy fight. Rick sort of turns tells him to piss off. Pillman throws a punch at Rick. Rick punches him back, and then Pillman does a sort of like, I don't know, like a super kick over the top rope kind of thing to the back of Rick's head. That allows Arn to get a DDT, and Arn wins, which I didn't think was going to happen. I didn't think Rick would put Arn over.
However, I'm pretty excited to see if they give Ric Flair and Brian Pillman 30 minutes. That's going to be a pretty good match.
Oh, but yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and that's kind of it. Like it's fairly clean. I mean, obviously Pillman gets involved, but there's no shenanigans afterwards, which there usually is in WCW matches. So I can imagine if I was watching this at the time and this match had been built up so much, Pillman getting involved may have annoyed me a little bit. It's a little bit of a screwy finish, but it was still a pretty good match before that. So, and it sets up a story going forward.
Yeah, I don't think this is the end of the story.
And then, so we actually have got to the main event of this pretty quickly. The pay-per-view goes for about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and almost an hour of that is this. Is this main event. We have 4 separate promos before we even get to the guys entering the arena. The first one is a vignette where the Taskmaster cuts a promo that's bizarre and amazing. And my favorite part of that is, we got you a bunch of posies. They're dead.
And then he starts picking the petals off, and he's like, "We love you not. Actually, we hate your guts." And it's like,
we hate your guts.
It's got some real My Chemical Romance vibes about it. Like, you know, when like 16-year-olds started being like hardcore, but not hardcore like hardcore used to be? Sort of like gentle and friendly and safe.
Yeah. It's not like I started listening to that music at the age of 26. I don't know what you're talking about. So we had that promo, right? Just sort of setting the scene of how fucking insane the Taskmaster is. Then we see footage of the Giant running over the Hulkster's Harley Davidson that he got from a shop in California.
Orange County Harley Davidson, given to him by the fans from Orange County Harley Davidson.
Yeah, it's hard to miss that, seeing it was mentioned 17,000 times. And just another example of Hulk payola or Hulkola, as I think I'll call it going forward. And man, look, we both know that this is leading to some of our favorite moments in WCW involving monster trucks, but seeing the Big Show, like Reuben Kincaid from the Partridge Family, hanging out at this monster truck, and like a crowd dispersing, it was like something. The production quality was like something out of Texas Walker Rangers, or Walker Texas Rangers, sorry, and yeah, it's just another little caveat to the story that, like, I don't know whether it's masterful storytelling or splattergun.
Well, the fact that the Giant runs over the bike, then very carefully like looks out the window and slowly backs over it again. It's like, you've just run over that small motorcycle with a monster truck. It's dead.
Yeah,
like,
it's a dead motorbike, man.
It's not more evil to back over it. Like, it's just...
Yeah. Then we get a third promo, this time all about the Hulkster and the Hulkamaniacs. And basically that they're like American made, and that the Taskmaster's got in his head and all this kind of thing. And then the second half of this promo looks like it was filmed at Warner Brothers or Movie World on the Gold Coast.
Hold on. That first half of that promo opens with Mean Gene saying he says, "This is like the Normandy invasion of 1945." and then Hulk Hogan just starts going completely bonkers and says that his team have been drinking gallons of Agent Orange. I looked up what happens when you get what Agent Orange does, and some of the side effects are heart disease, lung and trachea cancers, prostate cancer, multiple myeloma, Hodgkin's disease, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Parkinson's disease, type 2 diabetes, and peripheral neuropathy. or neuropathy.
Mm.
So I reckon they
Right.
haven't been. And if they have, like, that doesn't make you stronger.
I love how literal you are at times. It's amazing.
But it's like, under what circumstances would that, like, you're saying we're so tough we did this thing, but like they would be so physically incapacitated if they drank Agent Orange. It's like, we've just done a shit ton of meth and now we're coming to the ring. Which really was Raven's gimmick, to be fair.
Well, that you've done a much better job of anything I've got in my notes for summing up this promo. I just what I do love is that the Hulkster won't let this promo go like a lovesick boyfriend on the phone to a girlfriend who's overseas. He just won't hang up. He won't put the button on the promo. He grabs the microphone like 3 times from Mean Gene. And doesn't have anything extra to say. I just loved it. Then we finally cut to the arena. So all of that, those 4 different...
The movie world thing was also insane because it was just them running around like bases and things exploding. Like it's like, you idiots realize you're training for a wrestling match. Like, you're going to be so underprepared.
Yeah, but like if the Taskmaster shows up with a stunt show, then they'll be fine. So, swings and roundabouts, man.
They've obviously just had like quite a lot of cocaine and seen the word war and been like, all right, this is just like the Normandy invasion.
You don't see it until later on, but I just want to point out that all the guys, the Hulkamaniacs, like what a huge ego this guy has to like call his team the Hulkamaniacs when his team consists of Macho Man Randy Savage, Sting, and Lex Luger. Now, Lex Luger, but Sting and Macho Man Randy Savage, 2 of the greatest wrestlers of all time. No, you guys are Hulkamaniacs, okay? You're on my team. They're all wearing like camouflage face paint. And I loved how the Hulkster also had it on his bald spot.
Well, I mean, it's camouflage, so...
I mean, where his bald spot was, I couldn't tell it was whether it was there or not. So then we finally get out into the ring. So that's 15 minutes we've sat through that, waiting for this match to actually happen.
And because we're watching this on the WWE Network, what I noticed, I'm like, this match is like quite a complex set of rules, and we've got about 10 minutes of airtime left to go.
Yeah, 100%. So they explain the rules. The rules are oh God, I'm going to get this so wrong. But essentially, we start off with 2 competitors, and then because of a coin toss, that determines who gets the first wrestler in after 2 minutes.
And surely, I can't say this because I haven't watched them all, but this only works in the scenario that the heels get the advantage. Like, you can't really do this where like the faces come in and have the 2-on-1 advantage because it just doesn't work.
Yes, no, you're right, but the biggest sort of outlier of this match, or dominating factor of this match, is that Hulk's in it, and so the whole story has to revolve around the Hulkster coming in last. So it doesn't really matter what goes on before that. The Hulkster has to come in last and clear house. And that's essentially exactly what happened. You have a fairly good War Games match. There's a little bit of dissent between Macho and Lex sort of happening. There's a few sort of misunderstandings. They sort of lock up and Sting's trying to separate them at one point. Then Ming comes in and looks like a bad MF, where he starts just sort of clearing house with those guys. And then Hulk comes in and starts, according to Bobby the Brain Heenan, throwing napalm in people's faces.
Zodiac is Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
Yes.
And Zodiac has all I could think about during this match is he has these tassels on his arms and his legs that are so long that it's just massively impractical. Like, you could just like it doesn't make sense. He's always grabbable, always like movable and pullable. Uh, he should rethink that if he wants a career. That's all I'm saying. Believability, Zodiac.
I can't believe I'm saying that. Like, what I love about Zodiac, especially when he gets, his entrance is coming to the ring is Zodiac, the man from Yin and Yang. What does that mean? It's just they've just grabbed sort of random new age sort of Eastern philosophy words that they kind of know, but they don't really know what they mean. And they've just put it together, made a character that looks like Mr. Bad from E Street. And and that's a very old Australian reference. There's going to be like 3 people who get that. But there's something that I like about it. It's so bad. I want to see. He's also got like a kind of undercut situation happening, but then like at the front of his fringe, he's got like a sort of Astro Boy kind of like fin at the front as well.
I sort of took. I thought initially that they were referencing the Zodiac Killer until they went from the yin yang thing, and I'm like, why wouldn't you reference the Zodiac Killer? Why would you make it about the actual Zodiac? Everyone's greatest nightmare, the Pisces.
Well, as you can see with the commentary on NXT at the moment, if you reference a serial killer, supposedly as far as wrestling fans are concerned, that wrestler then has to murder people for their gimmick to work. So,
I mean, these people live in an underground cave together, doing acts of evil for no particular reason. So,
because they're evil.
Well, I mean, that is a reason. Being evil is a reason they're evil.
It's, it was good enough for Skeletor. It's good enough for the Dungeon of Doom. My references are so 40-year-old man today. So Hulkster comes in. He's throwing napalm around. The one thing I didn't sort of realize with War Games matches is that he chokes out Zodiac, our man Zodiac. And I'm going to speak on behalf of you as well. He's our man. And that's it. That's the end of the match. So it's just you've just got to submit one other person from the other team. Is that right?
Apparently, and then and his gift for this, his special prize is not only beating the people that he's beat up for the last 2 episodes of Nitro. He gets 5 minutes alone in the ring with Kevin Sullivan.
Which I did love this. It made no sense whatsoever. There's kind of like a shitty video game element to this. It was like if you're, the playable character is Hulk Hogan, and you knock off the Dungeon of Doom, and then like you get to fight the big boss, which is Kevin Sullivan. But of course, look, the Taskmaster doesn't have. He's always got a card up his sleeve, an evil card up his sleeve. And the Giant comes down to the ring, smashes his way into the cage, and then basically chokes out Hulk Hogan.
Why wouldn't he have put the Giant in the match?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing.
Like, really? Like, if the Giant is indestructible and, bigger than Hulk Hogan, why would you be like, you know what? Instead, let's have these useless guys go in. Let's see if Brutus the Barber Beefcake, if this is his day.
Yeah, it would be like having the Canadian Avengers assemble. You know what I mean? But you also had the Hulk there as well. But you were like, Canadian Avengers, Mr. Canada, Wolverine, and 2 other guys. You go and sort this out. And if you all die, then we'll send the Hulk in. That's essentially what this plan of attack was.
I just love when Kevin Sullivan tries to leave before he gets in the ring with Hulk Hogan, and they're like, it's like ridiculous and comical that like they just get the development guys in security uniforms, and there's 50 security guards holding one person back. This security guard, first of all, he starts walking up the lane, and an elderly man steps out and is like, no, I'm security. You've got to go back. And Kevin Sullivan doesn't like do anything. He's like, I respect the office, but I need to leave. And then this really skinny like guy comes out in a security t-shirt and it's like, no, you've really got to go back. And it's like, why is anyone scared of Kevin Sullivan?
Yeah, there's just no fear towards him whatsoever, to the point where the ref comes down and like manhandles Kevin Sullivan. Like he's like literally aggressive and gets in his face. It's like, you've got to get back in that ring right now. Thankfully, Sting comes along and grabs him and throws him back into the cage, and it makes a bit more sense. But I actually wrote that down in my notes as well. It's like, how lame is this security detail that is forcing Kevin Sullivan back to the cage? And we finished the pay-per-view with Tony Schiavone being very apologetic to leave. He doesn't want to leave fans on this scene of Hulk Hogan, being consoled by the Hulkamaniacs and paramedics on the way, but they've got to go. Even though it's a pay-per-view and they pretty much dictate how long pay-per-views go for, they had to go at that exact moment.
If only that commitment to time would have lasted throughout WCW.
I know, right? Yeah, and so that's it. That leads us to episode 3 of Nitro.
What an exceptionally strange, because it's like Nitro clearly is doing all these really odd, different things to be like to really stand out, but this really still feels a bit. It doesn't have the same vibrancy that Nitro had. It had some weird shit, but like I guess we just haven't had long enough to build up the matches, and I assume the next pay-per-view will be better.
Yeah, it's still, there's only 6,000 people in the arena. I mean, I say only 6,000 people, but, it's a smaller arena. It still kind of has a 80s carny vibe to it, compared to like sort of a big entertainment spectacular, which we'll sort of get to in like a year and a half's time. And things like, as much as I loved every second of the Gary Spivey, Paul Orndorff spot, it's weird to have promos like that on a pay-per-view. I mean, I suppose it starts a story kind of thing for people to tune into the TV product, but it also feels very amateurish, So there's a lot of that going on. Even the ending of the main pay-per-view, where there's sort of, I kind of felt like I was watching kids play fighting or like playing, because it felt like there were like 5 different endings. Like this was Hulk's ending, and this was Kevin Sullivan's ending, and this was Eric Bischoff's ending, and you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like it wasn't a sort of, I mean, I suppose in the end you got a definitive ending, but it just didn't feel, from a storytelling point of view, it felt a bit sort of sloppy, as Taz would say.
Yeah. But I'm excited to get back to Nitro.
Yeah, me too, man. This was fun.
I enjoyed. Like, this was a good pay-per-view. But we're gonna put these out on Sundays, aren't we? So tomorrow we'll have the next Nitro, much like it would be if you were watching
100%,
it in real time.
Man. 100%. That's how committed we are to making you guys feel like it's 1995. Because fuck knows, I don't want to be living in 2020 anymore. So.
Well, given you've referenced, E Street, there's been a few 1995 references.
I'm feeling very nostalgic at the moment, and with each passing day of this year, I'm feeling more and more nostalgic. I'm just going to, in my solitude up here in the northern suburbs of Melbourne, I'm going to, regress totally to just being like a 15-year-old wearing a Pearl Jam t-shirt. I'll get a skateboard again.
just being upset that Kurt Cobain's dead.
Yeah, God, that just really hit me though, Matt. You know what I mean? Like, it just, because he feels like our John Lennon. You know what I mean? And,
I do love Kurt Cobain. I'm going to be honest. I love
me too. But I remember having conversations like this at parties about it, and boring the shit out of whoever the hell I was talking to at the time. Speaking of boring the shit out of people, I'm going to shut up and end the podcast here. People are really getting into this WCW stuff, though, man, and we're getting more listeners to this all the time. So if you're enjoying it, we, as much as we are, tell your friends about it. Share it on socials. We're WrestleWolf Pod on all the socials. We're WrestleWolf Podcast at Gmail if you want to email us and bring up a particular thing that we've missed. Or you just, I don't know, you just want to talk about WCW. I'll talk to anyone about it. And rate and review it. That helps with the algorithms. And we'll be back with Nitro tomorrow.
Bye.